Good evening, Super League fans, Super League managers, everyone out there listening. I hope you can hear us now. My screen is telling me that you can, so hopefully that's not just me making things up. Apologies for the slight delay to the start of the show tonight. We're joined tonight in the studio by a blog author, podcast participant, and Swindon manager Stephen Fife. Good evening, Stephen.
Evening all. Hope you're all well.
I I think they are. I certainly am. I can see that Ryan's just joined, so it's a pretty full house here. Good for a Sunday night. Um, Any news from around the world of podcasts, Stephen? Anything you've been up to recently? You usually have a story or two of recent media involvements.
No, I've been quite quiet myself of late. Not really doing that much. I've been sending off a few inquiries using the list that you've actually got on our shared file to prospective blog participants in the CM series I'm doing with Football Easter. Hoping to get a few replies. Still got a few of those waiting to go out. Apart from that, just keep an eye on what some of the other guys in the soccer swap fan portal have been doing, the likes of Half and Half and Honest Football that I've been on with before. It's nice to see us all sort of sharing work and stuff, so I like to keep an eye on what they're all doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed that there are a few people doing a few things, and I think it's just nice to the keep the scene alive and also do a few favors for a few people, in return for them doing favors for us. I think it's how we if not reach a worldwide audience, then it's a good way to grow the community, and it's a great way for people to get involved in doing things that are a little bit out of the ordinary. I know Colin from Half and Half was talking about doing a completely different type of podcast that he's maybe looking for people to join, etc. So yeah, so it's all good. But it's good to hear that you've still been keeping busy, and we saw the blog came out again today. So thanks very much for that. It looks as if we've still got like really good participation rates from the managers. There weren't many blanks in there, and if there are any, then I think we've had some reasonable apologies from people. Is it your impression that the blog is still getting? Are you still getting good stuff back from the managers?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few that are really keen. I think that can be results dependent, of course, but um, I'd suggest Midlothian, to be fair, probably the best in terms of regardless of the result getting back. But some of the stuff he's been coming out with of late, it's been good value as well.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
very keen.
but yeah, I would agree. That there was only one missing this week, and he sent his apologies, which is fair enough. We're all busy people; we can't always do everything.
That's true.
And looking at the figures that I get through my blog site, I can see how many different countries and reads that we get, or like how many different countries it's read in, how many people are reading it. So we get
Hmm.
a decent audience considering.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously the same goes for the YouTube stats, although I think that the Kira Kieran's travels has somehow skewed it a little bit. I was thinking it was strange that I thought maybe because Thiago was close to the border or something, that's why people in Argentina were watching, but it was obviously Kieran while he was while he was on his travels. So so yeah, that's made up for it. But you do see some funny visitor countries that you wouldn't expect. But I think it's people traveling for business on being on holiday or something like that. They log in from various locations. Either way, it's good to have like a community, I think, and production of things outside of the actual game itself. So yeah, so it's good for everyone involved, and happy that you continue with your excellent contribution, of course, with the blog and all of this. It's definitely appreciated and very interesting for the people watching. Let's briefly touch on the transfer market now that I have you on here. Are you happy with the deals that you've lined up for the upcoming window? Are you planning anything else, any last minute rates, or have you had interest for any of your players?
Yeah, I mean, we've done our two Super League deals. We've agreed. There seems to be some confusion and rumour between the clubs as to what exactly is being agreed with who. We've got obviously we're very poor defensively, so that's the area we focused on. We've got a deal in place to bring Montero in at centre half,
Hmm.
which are decent signing considering our position. He's decent centre half, and
Hmm.
that was Roberto Carlos go the other way for the same value. And then we've also agreed to bring Mark Vivien Foe in just cash from BTEC for I suppose in Super League standards you could call it a nominal fee if you like. So that's decent business, I feel.
Hmm.
And then there was a couple of the players that you highlighted in the week that were interesting for different reasons. And there's one in particular that I plan on making a bid on now that you've opened it up to a third offer. Um, so yeah, and then there are potentially deals in place for the summer window, depending on how you say what we are and are not allowed to do. So
Oh, with the amount, yeah. I'm thinking that the summer window. I mean, obviously we're gonna have depending on what when we actually manage to finish the season and how much time we're gonna have, etc. etc. I think we're planning around Easter time or something like that. But I'm planning on obviously having much less restrictive transfer window in the summer, so people can do a little bit more of a swap shop kind of thing over perhaps a slightly longer period of time and having everything a little bit more organized. But I thought since I'd highlighted a bunch of players, I thought it would be a little bit unfair to the people who'd already kind of agreed a couple of deals, then to say, "Oh, look at all these fantastic players that that you can sign." Sadly, I won't allow you to do it, but there you go. So I'm glad that one or two of them caught your eye as well. That will hopefully will be something we'll be hearing more of, getting a bit of fresh blood into the Super League as well, without getting too excited about it. I can see Ian is already worried. He's worried that you're in for the Polish forward that I'd listed, but we'll see. Who people will go for. It would be a spoiler to come out with it, unless you wanna name names, obviously. But I'm happy to keep it secret until after next week.
the Polish forward is that back guy?
Mr. Back, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be on the radar quite a few teams, but as I mentioned before, I'm definitely looking more defensively at the moment.
Yeah, I think there's obviously different squads need different types of reinforcements. As you say, you've already brought in Montero, which is probably a good one. I mean, you've got a couple of players in there that are solid, but just based on the performance in the first 11, 12 games, then I think, I mean, as we'll see soon for Huddeston, for example, if someone's not performing, then you're gonna have to look at replacing them, even though on paper they might be good. I think Huddeston are changing their keeper today, so yeah, so it's just we've all the managers have different issues that they face, but hopefully you'll be able to address some of them with the transfers that you made. They certainly sound like decent deals considering the cover you've already got at left back and how much you needed a central defender. That seems like a good swap anyway. So we'll see how that develops. Um,
Well, this is it. I mean, I've got Ian Hart playing his first game of the season today. I've obviously still got Zé Roberto, who's more than capable of playing there. So although Carlos has, I think, the second best average rating of my squad at the minute, it's a deal that I can afford to do to bring in someone better in a different position.
Yeah, I think so too. I think both. I mean, I can't say that I have much experience with Ian Hart, but I presume that Roberto could do a reasonably good job on that left side as well. So, yeah, let's see how things work out. If we look at the results from last week, I hate to bring it up, but but of course there was the clash at the bottom of the table and. A disappointing first half, I think we can say, especially from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them things where I think I mentioned in my comments in the blog, we've played worse this season, so that it's a disappointing result and obviously one that we didn't want nor need.
Hmm.
But there were still things that you can take from it. So yes, again, like I said, I've made changes tonight, but I've not gone wholesale like I have after certain other defeats. We still
Hmm.
created chances away from home. Um, it's a weird one because throughout the entire history of Super League, we've never been able to defend. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. We can't defend, but what we used to be able to do was score goals.
Hmm.
And when we had people like Larson, he would score. Then we brought in Eto, which everyone questioned, and he scored. And we did all right on the scoring goals front. And when we drafted in Cliver, we thought, okay, we'll be all right. But it's not quite happened yet. And yes, I've been playing him in AMC the last couple of games. That's probably not helped him. But there was a reason for that. It worked against Dragons. It didn't against Sloths.
Hmm.
So it's all about trial and error at this stage. When you're marooned at the bottom, you have to try something different, and that's what we've done, and that's what we'll continue to do until we get the right mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I mean, there's only one thing for it, isn't there? Like you say, trial and error, and you can't be blamed for trialing things, as we mentioned on one of the previous podcasts or one of the previous shows rather. If you're at the bottom of the table, you're always going to get some amount of stick, no matter what you do. But you can't do nothing. You can't for your own sanity, you can't just feel the same side week after week and hope for blind luck. So at least you're trying different things, and I mean, I think it worked a little bit better with Kluivert up front, and we'll obviously see how you line up this time. Huntelaar with 2 goals in the last two is not a bad return for such a young striker as well. So if if things will improve, I mean, then it's down to the changes you have made and not just to sort of blind luck or the luck of the draw, or toss of the coin or whatever. So you got to do something. So fingers crossed for Swindon and for perhaps a result today. You're second last on the show tonight. We're doing reverse order because so many of the teams that were at home last week are at home again. So I thought we'd start from the other end. It's also fair for Andreas not to be last on every single week, considering the time difference that he's already suffering. So yeah, that's it. Um, any of the other results that kind of stood out to you? I mean, obviously, Hooligans comeback against Hornets was something that people mentioned. Midlothian being very strong at home again. Also, one of them. Any of them that you paid particular attention to, or you thought was surprising for any reason?
I mean, I'm in a unique position because I write the blogs. I can kind of define this stuff as well. The games that appear first are
Mhm.
the ones that will either be more entertaining or more controversial. So
Mhm.
yeah, I put Hooligans the first game in the blog just because that was a mental game. Midlothian was second, and just a little mention how good Boise was last week. I mean, obviously him and Timmy have had a bit of previous, and the you could hear the level of joy in his voice as each goal went in for Midlothian. But no, he was good value last week. Good to have him back involved. Ardsley beating Astor, obviously a good result for Ardsley, and an interesting game when you consider Astor aren't even in the top six anymore.
Yeah.
Churchtown, that was one that could have gone either way. They were all, except for Valen beating BTEC, I suppose, they all were interesting in their own reasons.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There was a lot of drama certainly in a lot of the games. A really tight battle between Touchdown and Panathinaikos as well, with Kieran eventually 2-1 winners. As you mentioned, it was probably only Valen United and BTEC. I mean, it was only 1-0, but there was no way that game was going to end anything else. While as the other ones had their talking points, as you mentioned. So yeah, but let's see what tonight brings. As mentioned, it's good you're on because I haven't done my normal pre-match continue clicking. So here's the chance I'll mess this up. But this is the predicted playing order is that we start from the bottom with Valen United, and then we move through to Sloss, Midlothian, etc. etc. We've got yourself against BTEC coming up second to last, and then Ardsley, as Hodges on night shift anyway, and Kieran's in New Zealand, and they won't mind what time they're on because I don't know if any of them are actually watching it, but they should be on last. But we'll see how it goes with the scheduling. And if not, I'll have to rely on your expertise in these matters. I think I should be able to change the players from here. So first up, we should have Alan um, against against Hoddesdon. Yeah, so that is right. I did it. um,
Uh,
and if we're looking at Valen's lineup here, they're looking to extend the league, but Andreas has changed the tactics a little bit. They used to be very, very narrow, overloading that DMC area, but they've somehow gone wide. Are you surprised about that, or do you think he's got a game plan against Craig's side?
well, I mean, he's clearly got a game plan. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that changing it is the best thing to do when you're on that sort of run. I mean, we saw what just moving Cafu did last week. He very quickly moved him back again.
Mhm.
But he's clearly looking to deploy it for a reason. Essentially, he's kind of matching up, but going a bit more attacking with it.
Mhm.
Um, so, and when you're playing a team as good as Hoddesdon,
Mhm.
then you expect it. Um, that they're going to come out and play well against you. So I do believe that's probably the reason he's done it. Although I wouldn't necessarily suggest it was the best move for them.
Hmm. But they I mean they've proven before that they can obviously play with different formations. Let's see if Craig has got anything up his sleeve this time, which to which the answer presumably is no, because very likely that he's lining up in the same formation that he's always lining up in, and indeed he is. I think the only change that he's made, apart from obviously he's dropped the keeper, because Landra had a couple of really bad games, and I don't think he's given Bosnich a fair run yet so far. Bosnich hasn't played this season, so he's trying him tonight, and he's got Dunn in midfield instead of Davies. So a fairly sort of I mean, Dunn is a more attacking player, isn't he? Than if I remember rightly, yeah, he's a more attacking player than Davies. But do you think they'll be able to do anything different than BTEC compared to the result last week?
Well, the thing is, as we always say, they've got history and a proven track record. I think Eto came in last week, did a fine job, and deserved to keep his place. Dunn is a very good player on the game as well, so I don't think that weakens them at all. I think what you've got here is two very good managers with two very good squads, so this could be a cracking match all in.
Yeah, and Tsigalco and Batistuta are still firing on all cylinders. I think that Batistuta's got 10 and 11 now. I think he's the only striker that's keeping up that kind of average. Tsigalco with 6 and 9, also doing quite well. I think that's the highest, probably the highest scoring striker partnership in the league with 16. I think Morientes and Tristan are just behind them, although in fewer games. So there could be a good game in this one. You think? How are the predictions looking for this one? Do you have the do you have numbers, or do you think was it a home win? I think.
Yeah, so I didn't write the actual numbers down, but I did make a couple of notes from the blog.
Hmm.
Valen are favourites. I think that's more because they're at home than anything.
Hmm.
But you're right, Batistuta, 10 goals, top of the goal scoring charts. In terms of partnerships, again, you're right. Morientes and Tristan, 14 between them, are probably the closest. Excuse me. So yeah, this could be a great game. I'm expecting goals, and I think I'll go with the masses here and say that it'll be a narrow home win.
A narrow home win. Yeah. Well, they haven't conceded in the last three, so if anyone can change that, you would think it's Batistuta and Chicago. But we'll kick it off and see how the first half goes. If the Swedes can continue their good run of form, or if the Hornets are out to upset them in the Swedish home arena here, in front of the presumably frozen crowd. I'm not sure what the weather's like, and I'm making this up. I have no idea what the weather's like at this place in Sweden at this time of year. Cold, but it's got to be cold, hasn't it? It's -5 in Scotland now.
In fairness, I mean, in the game, obviously, we're in Australia and it's only 8 degrees.
That is true, actually. Good point. Um, is that a symptom of how terrible the first half has been that we're talking about the weather?
Um, yeah, it's not really been the long bursting stuff we expected from these two. But again, these things always work the other way. If you think about football in other realms, if you will, then
Hmm.
how often do you see games, with the exception of Liverpool, Man City, maybe, where some of the big teams come up against each other and they're boring stalemates because you could argue that they're just so good that both teams go into their shells to they prefer not to lose. I mean, look at them stats. It's been virtually even.
Yeah, I mean that really not a lot to say about the first half. I mean, I was going to say Craig will be pleased with the performance of Mark Bosnich so far, but to be fair, he's probably not had that much to do. Freddie Ljungberg on his return to Sweden, maybe finding it a little bit tricky, not really setting the world alight here with his efforts. Um, as for Valen United, anything in their stats that stand out to you?
Well, obviously Cafu's still getting the high ratings. You'd expect that, but again, you're looking at Saviola, Shevchenko, Totti, bang average first half. They need to sort that out.
Yeah, you'd expect more when I mean, I know he swapped sides and said that had kind of helped a little bit, but it looks as if he's still struggling to get the most out of Shevchenko. I think. I mean, to be fair, 4 goals in 10 games. I know that there's a lot to say about, oh, we don't care as long as we win. It's the result that matters. But Shevchenko with 4 goals after 10, I'm regardless of how the goals, you would want more. You would want more, I think. Not a lot of touches either. Action zone wise, it's been pretty much over in the Swedish side of things. But let's see how things change in the second half. Maybe an early goal or a controversial refereeing decision or something can spice things up a little bit.
Is Ben Williams a name we know?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the one we've got to look forward to tonight is Wayne Dade, who I think is in charge of a couple of games simultaneously.
Good lad.
Yeah, in the style of Mr. Oldham of the first round, and he's also got a reputation as a harsh referee. So we'll see if he can live up to that.
Valen are starting to really pick up it, but it looks like it's going to end 0-0.
That's it. That's exactly how it ended. Yeah, it picked up a little bit for both teams in the second half, to be honest. A couple of shots on goal. Um, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, Craig's got to be happy with his decision to drop the Frenchman in favor of Bosnich. I mean, that's a potential man of the match performance for him there. I mean, just because the others weren't any good, I'm not saying he was outstanding, saving 4 shots, but still, he's got to take that, hasn't he?
I think Craig will certainly be the happier of the two with that result. You always want to win your home games for a start. But yes, he will certainly be the happier. And like you point out, Bosnich getting a 9. You can't ask for more than that from your second choice keeper.
True, true. And if we're looking at the Valen United Man of the Match award for Rio Ferdinand, another 9 for Cafu. I mean that's fine, but they are your defenders, and you have 0 goals. And then you look at the ratings from sort of midfield upwards, and everyone's on a 6 and a 7. I think they probably just failed to break down the hottest and horniest defense, didn't they? I mean, not just in terms of goals, but in terms of possession and creating like decent chances. It looks as if it's just been a little bit from the wings, and that's about it.
Totti's had probably his worst game of the season, which isn't bad considering it's a 6, but he'll be disappointed that he's not been that creative influence that he normally is, not getting in with goals or assists.
That's not good. I mean, a 6 for Totti, and no tackles and no headers. You maybe wouldn't expect him to do a lot of tackles and headers, but you'd at least expect him to have more than 19 passes, 13 of which he completed. So yeah, so kind of poor, kind of a poor start there for everyone involved, the league and the two teams. I mean, not so much result wise. I think both will be happy with a clean sheet. They would have perhaps just have hoped they'd scored, but not a lot of entertainment in that one. So instead, we'll move swiftly on to Somerset Sloths. Only one injury. Jorgensen is out this week, and they are playing Chudley Cannons, who have made a couple of changes, which we will get to in a second. Finnan, who's been really important for them so far this season, is unfortunately injured for I think 2 or 3 weeks, a bit of time anyway. We look at the Sloth side first. He's I was gonna say, is is a Sloss positively flying now? That's one defeat in the last 5 for Sloss. That's considering the start they had to the season. That's a reasonable sort of successful formula he's found here, despite the kind of criticism of playing Balag in an odd role, etc. What do you think about the Sloths and their kind of recovery or resurgence or whatever we should call it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not been ideal for us,
True.
but to put a neutral head on, I think they've done really well to recover in the way they have. I think it's an interesting debate about the game, not so much Sloths themselves, but the game, because, like you point out, he gets criticised for playing Balak in attacking midfield, which fine, everyone has their own opinion, but he's playing him out of position, and people moan, yet he's done all right since he's been put there. Yet if someone, say, like me, puts Cliver out of position, I get slated for it. And it's one of them things where some people it'll come off for, and some people it won't. At the end of the day, I think I'm in a qualified position, being bottom of the league, and now we are halfway through, to say that we have played worse teams this season. I think they will rise up the table. I don't think they will finish in the bottom 2. They have impressed the last few weeks, and I can only see it continuing.
Yeah, and to your point about playing players out in position and people getting credit for it, I mean, there's a lot of people, probably not a lot of people, but myself and maybe a few others, probably surprised to see Kieran playing Estebaria at wing back. But he's, I mean, apart from Cafu, he's been the best wing back in the league, and even from an average rating perspective, and I think he's the one with the most assists anyway. He's done very very well in that wing back, even though he doesn't have any kind of, I think, maybe positional letters that would indicate that he could play there. Um, there's a lot of
I,
people for sorry.
I would disagree because his position, if I remember correctly, is just AMFR. So he's a right winger, and you're playing him right wing back. I see no issue with that whatsoever. But not only
No,
that,
but if you look at Michael Ballack's stats, if you look at Michael Ballack's stats, he's a midfield whatever. But if you look at his stats, he's got better stats than most AMCs in the game anyway. So he should, realistically be able to play up there as well. I think it's as much an out of position job as a as what you call it, as putting Estebaria in at right back. And considering how many people play defensive midfielders in central midfield, I mean, just because of I suppose the lack of MCs in the game, but yeah, but as you mentioned yourself, if it works out, then you get credit for making that decision, and if it doesn't work out, then you get slayed, saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be playing him there. It's terrible." That's how it is.
the other thing about it is, I mean, Balak's playing on the right hand side when he's left footed, for
Hmm.
one thing. But going back to Etsabaria, the other thing is that's working to Kieran's advantage is that he's got proven track record again, because that's the same position that Boise played him in at Haller, was that right wing back position.
Hmm.
So he knows it works.
True. That is a fair point, actually. And plus, he's obviously I think you have the advantage in this particular league as well, that if you play against a team that either play with very similar players, there's not a lot of, I think maybe there's been a few changes, but there's not that many people that play with actual midfielders out wide. I mean, like Sloths do here with an ML and an MR. I mean, I set the tactics, so I remember vividly that there aren't many people that do that. Most of them have them in moved one back to the DML position. So maybe that's a benefit for those people who play with wingers as well. I'm not sure how the logic in the game works, but anyway, we'll see tonight if Ballack can make something of it. Rivaldo obviously got 3 assists last week and managed to somehow avoid being on Team of the Week, which was impressive in itself. But yeah, Sloss will hope to continue their form here. If you're looking at Chudley Cannons, so we've got someone being sacrificed here, Kutuzov, who's failed miserably. I think Tim had a proper go at him in the blog as well. Last game for the club or something like that.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to slate Timmy at all. You know, he knows what he's doing, and he will be hurting. Not just because they lost the last game, but the the way in which they've lost. You know, it wasn't that they were unfortunate; they got hammered. You know, we're talking Swindon level hammered, and that will frustrate and annoy him. What surprises me, given what I do know about him, and perhaps it shows his he does have certain favourites on the game. Like say, Kutuzov's been told he'll never play again. Vesterveld equally got a 4, and not only has he not been told that, but he starts again. I cannot understand how anyone that gets a 4 gets in the team the next week.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's a difficult decision to make. I think if you are a manager, I certainly wouldn't. But then I don't know. Sebastian Frey, is he a liability? I think he did incredibly badly in the 2 games he played. Yeah, I mean 2 games he came out as a sub, but conceded 7 goals. He's got low morale. He's only 21. Is he the best backup to throw in at a tricky away game against the resurgent Sloth side? Maybe, but I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I wouldn't play a player who'd got a 4 either. To be honest, that wouldn't be my chosen action. We've got another attacking player on the right back here, Posansini. I think he's he's an attacking midfielder as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Um, any of the players that you think are particularly eye catching so far this season? Rossini's got a few goals. Any of the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, Rossini's obviously the standout player there. I'm a big fan of Balmer, left wing back.
Mm-hmm.
I know um, Timmy loves Mendes. Van Bommel's done well this year for the most part, and obviously Mark Kerr is a huge part of what he's trying to achieve.
Yeah. And Liverani is coming in next to him in the midfield. I mean, Liverani is kind of like a Milevski, isn't he? That DMLC that can play like 19 different positions and still do a decent job. So we'll see if this will be a turnaround for the Cannons after that defeat. How do you see this one going? How does the paying public? I don't know why I wanted to call them that. How does the audiences see this one going?
It surprised me in a way just how big Sloths were as favourites for this. I think it was 73, 74%, which is unbelievable, really. I've never seen a Tim side that lowly rated in a game, particularly when they're playing a team below them in the league. Um, I think that the form is going to play a part, and it'll be interesting. I had Cannons down to win beforehand, but he's playing two up top, which he doesn't normally do. So I'm going to say a score draw.
A score draw. Well, we'll kick it off and see if we can get some of the action that we didn't get in the first game, and if Kutuzov will be missed and his no assists and low ratings. Um, Aggressive start from the sloths. Crespo with an early chance there, and Rivaldo and Crespo. My goodness, there was a ton of pressure from the very first minute.
I wonder if he's regretting Prey not playing yet.
Ah, well, he's not regretting Rossini playing, so that's a quick equalizer. Still only half an hour in now. That went quick.
Yeah, the
Porcencini,
game set a frantic start.
Rivaldo with a goal.
He's got the ump with me, hasn't he, Rivaldo?
He's trying to get back in. He's definitely trying to get back in the team of the week. Um,
This is what people sometimes struggle to remember. Is I'm kind of doing a dual personality thing. Um, Not to the extent that Boise was last year, obviously when he was
mhm,
doing your job as well as being a manager, but I've got to be the manager, but I'm also doing sort of the press guy and trying to do them as two different people.
mhm,
So it's quite funny. Obviously, I mean, now that we've changed how we're doing team of the week, and Rivaldo was the one that I got not slated, but questions over why he didn't get in. But then you could also ask questions over why the others didn't if he'd got in over them.
mhm. True. Absolutely. Um, well, that'll be three for him then, Ryan. Yeah. Ryan says that we're not all doing dual personality, but you're doing triple then, if we're counting our actual, without getting too philosophical about it. But back in the world of CM, good first half for Sloths, plenty of chances, good possession.
Yeah, again, I think he'll be delighted with it. There's very little there he can be upset by. His attackers are getting good ratings. And it's just about maintaining that now and trying to see it through for much needed 3 points.
Yeah, I mean that's been not the downfall, but certainly a problem for Sloth so far this season to actually hang on to the lead once they get there. And Comandini perhaps not repaying his manager's faith in him with a five there, but in general not the best performance from Chudley Cannons today.
No, they got two players there out to prove a point in Westerveld and Mendes de Silva, and everyone else just hasn't turned up for him, really.
Uh,
I mean, it's very rare he's got, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sixes, but even rarer he's got a 5.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like it, and I mean, Sloths have been all over them. But we'll see if they can continue their form in the second half, or if there's a way back into this for the Cannons. Um, Stats wise, I mean, it's been all Sloths so far, but we have seen much better first half performances than second half performances from them in the past, last week included. So let's see how it turns out in the second half, if they're able to continue to pile on the pressure, or if Chudley Cannons will find a way back in. They do have a cup. Oh, there's Crespo. Crespo making
It
it
appears
three.
Ryan likes Comandini the way that Palmer likes the Brazilian guy whose name escapes me at the moment.
um, Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it a while ago that once Rob gets a tune out of that Sloth side, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be in for a surprise because he's
Oh,
good. He's very good. I think is it something? Is it now that I'm not allowed to put players in because they get a bad average or something? No one. I knew it.
yeah, don't change.
I can put Liverani down there just to cover to maybe prevent it and see if that's gonna make any difference. And Ballack gets a gold. Uh, that's a tough one for Chotley there. I think they'd obviously been hoping for a bit of a bounce back with regards to results, but that did not work unfortunately for them going two up top. And Sloths are, I mean, unrecognizable from the start of the season, aren't they?
Yeah, this doesn't bode well for me at all, if I'm honest. What can you say? That they very much deserved it. It's in keeping with the form which we spoke about at the start. I think the performance very much deserved it, and I don't want to take anything away from Sloths at all, but there now has to be serious questions being asked of Chudley Cannons. You know, they're in free fall.
I mean, that's 10 goals conceded in two games. I think Hornets conceded 9 in two and also lost as well, and they weren't challenged as much. But I guess the position in the league for Cannons is a little bit more perhaps not ideal. We'll see on the home and away stats if they played a bunch of teams at home or away. But either way, that's not a satisfactory result. Assists for Yepes, for Van Bronckhorst, for Selakovic. A good day out for Sloth, to be completely honest. Chudley Cannons, they came back into it in the second half, but they just did not finish off any of those chances. Van Bommel, who otherwise so reliable, getting a five. Liverani with a five, Comandini with a five. I mean, I know it's not forced, but it's not far off it.
No, I mean, you look at that and there's very little that will please. And Baumer's injury is only gonna make things worse when you consider Finnan's injured as well. I'm not sure, obviously, how long he's out for.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure they'll bounce back. That the you know it's difficult when you lose and when you lose consecutively and lose consecutively badly.
Hmm.
Um, it's just about I can't sit here and give him advice. He knows what he's going to do to turn it round, and I'm sure he's still going to, at worst, challenge for top six, if not make it.
Hmm.
But he won't be happy with this at all.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely leaves a lot to be desired from a lot of the players out there today. I mean, there's only so much you can do with as a manager, as you know yourself. You see successful formations, you see how your teams have been formed in the past. You try and set it up in a similar way that you either knew was successful or that you have seen others get result with, and then they still play like complete dog shit, and then there's just nothing you can do about it. So probably hoping for a couple of home games. I would suggest. I mean, it's never nice to lose 6-1 on the road, and your next game is on the road against the resurgent side. It's a tricky one. So we'll see if something slightly more manageable come up for Cannon. So maybe they can get their season back on track, because it has gone off the rails a little bit, in the way that the Astor side, or sort of Astor has kind of fallen from grace after however many games it is without a win. But we'll see them next up, obviously. Um, we've got Midlothian. So yeah, well, if we're talking about sides that can get results at home, then look no further than our next competitors. Um, Unchanged, unsurprisingly, from Midlothian, as far as I remember. Or was there a change in defense? I can't remember actually. There are so many squad changes. Obviously, I do occasionally lose track, but I think is Klumpe new? I feel like Klumpe is new. But either way, Midlothian have been quite good at home. Would you agree?
Well, you can't not agree with that. That's very very impressive. Obviously, we're very good last week. And Penza being fit again is going to be key for them. And a lot of talk last week was obviously on Ramelow, who I noticed in the pack you sent me is now joint top of the assist ratings.
Yeah. Very impressive. I think average rating wise as well, he's very impressive. Carsten Ramelov, 780. I think he's the highest average rating player in the Midlothian side. Uh, Not sure if anyone expected that when the season started.
No, no, I would agree. And people are always make it or asking questions of certain things. Addo still playing left wing back. Is Cure good enough? But particularly at home, as everyone says, they're doing really well. So you can't argue with success, and success is the one thing they're getting at home. It's just how does he turn it around away?
Yeah, that's true. And as much as we speculated on which play, whether Ballack or Estebaria were played out of position, I would say Addo is probably probably one that I would not expect on the wing at all. The others I can kind of get the idea. Addo, I definitely don't get the idea, but he definitely performs. Certainly better than his alternatives. I don't think he's blessed with a bunch of left of left backs, but he has got someone coming in apparently that might address this. So perhaps we'll see Addo in a more central role, unless he unless he persists with his lowest average rating player, Neil Scally. But time will tell how Midlothian does this. But no surprises in the lineup, and it could be a long afternoon for Asta unless they have something to combat that with. Um, as you can see here, the breaking news that Alf had that he was going to change up the tactics consists on an arrow on Placenta going to the left and one on Zanetti going to the right. So that's the formation from Asta with the implemented changes. Um, 6 games without a win for Asta Athletic. Where do you see their season going from here?
It very much depends on tonight. He said he would make tactical changes, and I suppose to the letter, as you pointed out, he has with these lines. If he particularly loses again, I think he will have to change it. You can't persevere when you're losing or drawing as well, I suppose, but particularly losing. And when you consider who he's losing to as well, it's not like he's not losing ground. He's losing to teams that are in and around him. And yes, I
Hmm.
know the league is tight with the exception of me, um, but you can't lose to all the teams above you and expect to finish in those top 6 places. But like Tim beforehand, Alf knows what he's doing. He will turn it around without question. Is this one too many? I'm not sure. There's certain players I'm not sure about the front two personally. Um, it's interesting. I mean, I don't have all their squad information, but if you look at what they did so well at the start of the season,
Hmm.
um, then you would say Koku was one of their better players. You would say Smith. I know Bogey's injured makes a big difference, but Emerson's not exactly a bad replacement. Um, you just wonder, is this enough to stop the rot? And I'm not sure,
Mm.
particularly away to Midlothian.
Yeah, well, we'll soon see. We'll kick it off, and we'll see if Fortress Iron Brew is as impenetrable as it has proven so far this season. I'm guessing that the pundits, the fans, the other managers are backing a home win in this one.
Yeah, I think they're Midlothian are the biggest favourites of the night. Quite surprisingly,
Yeah.
there was 3 big favourites all in the 70s,
Hmm.
um, which are Midlothian, BTEC, and Ardsley, and I think Midlothian were the highest. And as we're at the Iron Brew Arena, I'm just going to have a quick drink of my little can of Iron Brew that I got in just for the occasion.
Well, that sounds good. We'll kick this one off, and we'll see if, as I said, if Midlothian could continue their good run of form. If anyone's going to upset them, it's going to be Astor, I think. But we'll see how it goes. Because they Astor do have the quality to I think beat everyone, but Midlothian have been very impressive so far, and especially with that result last time out, morale is going to be very high for them, I think. Um, Couple of good chances for Asta so far, and not the usual huge domination for Midlothian.
And Kesman's missed a couple as well already, early doors.
Yeah, Aston definitely. Um,
That first half went quite quick,
yeah,
considering
it
it led
did.
watching, but. the time still went by quite quickly.
Relatively quickly. I mean, yeah, there's not been a lot either end. We should have perhaps mentioned that Astra Athletic have changed their goalkeeper. That's even, I would say that's a bigger change than the than the change of the arrows on the DMCs. Obviously, the manager Alf got fed up with Bartes and his continued poor performance, and I think there's some slight squad disruption in there as well that has that kind of yeah, morale effect maybe. So it's Lehman who's in goal for Asta tonight, and he's done quite well despite, well, he's not really had much to do, but sorry.
I was just saying, yeah, you're right, but he's had nothing to do.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it's this scan that's been his best performer so far, which will be no surprise to most people. I think he is one of those underrated players.
Hmm.
Those who play all the time say how good a player he is, and he's definitely better on this than he was in real life.
Well, there's a, there's a good argument to be made for that. Gattuso doing well, so Midlothians, the players generally sort of reasonably good stats. It's just that Impensa has not actually been able to get the ball really, and Kessman has had 4 shots, but he's failed to convert any of them. But do you see much changing in the second half? Are Midlothian are they still good value for money? Do you think for a win?
Well, I'm not sure if it's the way either Midlothian is set up or if it's just the lucky way the game's playing. But Kesman certainly seems, particularly since Mpenza's injury, to have become the main man. And
Hmm.
Mpenza's now looking at how he was last week when he came back, and certainly here, he seems to be playing second fiddle in terms of Kesman's the one hitting all the shots. And if you let Mpenza, obviously you know he's going to score. So how he
Hmm.
tweaks that, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll see what happens in the second half, as you mentioned there. I mean, they've got 11 between them. The two is perhaps not the most effective striking partnership, and I know that Ian has mentioned that he's looking at improving in that position. But who knows? We'll see what comes up. And yeah, not much to talk about from Master's perspective, unfortunately. We'll see if the second half brings a little bit more action. We've not been blessed with a lot of action in the first game and in the third. There was a few goals in the second one. We'll see how the evening continues. Um, Brad Mackay in charge of this one. Oh well, there's not going to be any more goals for Impensa anytime soon. I think it's Tobias Gran, isn't it? That we're gonna put in there. And I think perhaps this will work better. We'll see. Anyway,
That's a big loss. The same way in what I said about Finnan and Balmer, and Penza being injured, he'll hope that's not for long.
he's definitely going to be looking at another striker in the window if it is a longer injury because Kuhl is not. I mean, I know I've just put him there, but Kuhl is not a long-term solution to your attacking options. That's it. Another 0-0.
I think the game knows what you're planning. There's no surprise. Boise comes on, there's all sorts of drama and excitement. I come on, there's not much to talk about. This could be the first time you actually managed to complete it within the hour.
Oh, well, there is a if we fly through it, there is a chance for that. But six, I mean, as Alf said in the comments, he's hoping Midlothian will tie with all the arrows, and they kind of did in the second half. They had one shot and nothing to write home about there. It does look as if the wide arrows on the DMCs really stopped Midlothian going forward, despite the very attacking defensive midfielders that they do have. If you're looking at the action zones, that was fairly even. Stats wise, it's fairly even as well. And it was probably just a. I mean, Emerson had a shot. I mean, it's not a performance you would you'd be proud of, to be honest. But the result is good for
Yeah,
Astra, I think.
yeah, I'm seeing Alf's put in the comments, Rot stopped with the wide arrows, but had it? The question here is, he seems to be happy with that, which is fine. But again, he hasn't won. And when you're a team that were undefeated for so long, top of the league, and now you're outside the top six, is just not losing enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was at 5 wins in a row and 7 without a win after. So it's kind of little bit up and down. But I mean, considering that he's had some relatively poor results previously, and how dominant Midlothian have been, so that's their first job points at home, obviously. Um, so I mean, but he can't be well, he can be happy if he wants. But looking at the stats of the players, I would still say, okay, could have maybe done a little bit better there. I mean, I know it's strong opposition that he's up against, but still, um, clean sheet. It's not too bad away at Midlothian. I don't think many teams have had that so far. I mean, I know for a fact that no one has had a clean sheet away at Midlothian so far this season. I think so. So perhaps not the worst. Um, Gattuso, man of the match. He's been flying a bit under the radar this season. Do you rate Gattuso at all?
I don't think you can argue that his stats make him a very good player. He was someone I liked in real life as well.
Hmm.
But he's had a bit of a torrid Super League history. Was it with you last year where he seemed to get sent off every time he played?
I sold him because he got sent off, I think, or something like that. I let someone else have him, I think, for the last half of the season or for something. Yeah,
Yeah. But no, you know, he's a good player. I think the emergence of Ramelow has allowed him to fly under the radar. The onus isn't on him the same way it is on a player of, say, Roy Keane or Patrick Vieira. He's got other people in and around him that can help him out.
true. Yeah, and Ramelov getting an 8 again, helping his average there. Eric Addo with a 7. Scally with an 8. We'll be pleased with that, no doubt. Fluke again, but there we go. Shea Given still
Oh,
proven
really?
to be
Scanley.
Shea Given's still proven to be a good goalkeeper. Keeping, I mean, fair enough, just one shot, but a clean sheet's a clean sheet. He'll definitely take that as well. Um, but now more than ever, Midlothian need a striker. You can see in Pence's fitness conditions gone down to 30. That looks like a 3 or 4 week injury to me, I think. So that's something that will definitely kind of force his hand in the transfer window, I think, because he doesn't have an alternative really to Mpensa, I don't think so. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. Um, is there anything else you want to add about Midlothian's performance? Do you think? I mean, Mpensa so disappointing. I mean, we're nearly an hour in. He had 7 touches, not a single goal. Maybe he was carrying an injury. Who knows?
Um, I mean, I can only judge by what I would do personally in that situation and what I'm reading. It seems Alf's quite happy with that. I personally think it's a better result for Midlothian. Um, but it was probably the right result. Neither side really went all out to win it, so it's pretty fair.
And we'll see. Obviously, I think Midlothian have got 1 or 2 away games coming up now, so we'll see how that works out for them. Next up, we've got another. What do you mean we'll have it done in an hour? We've got 4 games to go. We'll be lucky to keep it to the normal hour and a half. Either way, we've got Hooligans up next, so this is always relatively exciting when we've got Thiago and the boys, and they are up against the mighty Bolton Phoenix. Ryan is alive and well in the chat, I think, or he was earlier anyway. So this should be a good one. Um, well, now that Alf has abandoned his core tactics, abandoned is maybe a strong word, but he has made changes. Veteran coach Thiago has not made any changes and doesn't look as if he's about to make any changes. Kind of a resurgence for Hooligans this season. Hoping for a good performance tonight after that comeback against Hoddesdon. Ronaldo only 4 goals this season, but Ronaldinho has been a top man, and he was in a team of the week as well. I think he made it as a striker, kind of on the left hand side ish, maybe. Uh, how do you see Hooligans this season?
Yeah, there's no hiding the facts. I'm a big fan of Thiago as a bloke and a manager. Um, you're right. I think Ronaldinho has proven his worth again this season. Um, and you say he's not making changes, but he doesn't have to. I believe he's sitting second in the league at the moment. And again, I know it's very tight, but while you're second, you're doing well enough to not only make the playoffs, but the easier route. So he'll be more than content with where he is right now.
Yeah, and I think the only changes he's made is obviously when his hand have been forced by injury. Um, he said some. I can't. Did he say over my dead body or something? I don't think he's looking forward to Philip Mexes getting a game. Stephen Klose is in goal. Is that? Is that correct? I don't know. I'll double check if that's correct.
He was
Um,
very angry with Chiotti's performance last
yeah,
week.
I think so. I'm pretty sure that that's definitely what he mentioned, but I'll double check the tactics and I'll let you know because he's usually quite vocal about his changes. Yeah, close for Curtis. Yeah, definitely. As a change that Thiago's made. So I'm still doing okay for this week for not screwing up anyone's squad. So yeah, absolutely. Yakubu plays in that difficult role there. It's difficult with both Gamara and Campbell injured for him, obviously, but he's been doing okay so far. Celius has done well, and Kennedy's come in and done a half decent job in midfield as well. Uh, he claims he hasn't rushed Aymar back. I mean, he did show full fitness, so I'm not sure what happened with his second injury, but we'll see how Hooligans get on tonight. If we have a quick, sorry,
I'm just saying he's been very unfortunate with injuries. His list is probably the longest in the league and for the longest time.
he's not had less than two players injured at any point in the season, and usually about four, and currently five, and I think he has had six as well. So yeah, and it's not like bad ones. It's Anelka, Mendieta, and Aymar, I think at the moment, as well as Sol Campbell, obviously, and I think like some kind of squad player as well, maybe Salas or Recoba. One of the other ones is or Defoe even. There's another guy that's injured at the moment. So yeah, lots of injuries for him, definitely a tricky one for Hooligans to deal with. But as you mentioned, they're second in the league, so um, not much to say about that. Um, Bolton Phoenix, they were really on a good run, had a couple of good results, and then last week the wheels didn't come off, but they had perhaps a bump in the road rather against the Dragons, who were much improved as to what they've been recently. Kale is obviously suspended after that game, and and Alex joins Verong in midfield instead of Kale, and Dede is back on the left wing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Zambrotta and Dede, and that's probably as good a wide partnership as anyone has in the league. Um, Figo's been doing the business for him so far this season, which many other managers in Super League history have failed to do. So credit to him for that. Continues to rotate his strikers. Henri, I think, scored off the bench last week, so he starts.
Hmm.
Um, it, I just wonder what would happen. I know he's not happy with Fowler, Shearer, and Henri as his striking options, but I just wonder what would happen if he persevered for, say, a 4 or 5 game run with one of them.
True. It could perhaps change their fortunes a little bit, but they seem to have been performing okay when they've come off the bench, and he has had a few goals from Figo recently, obviously. So that's maybe something he's relying on. I don't know, to be honest, but it's a fair point. But we'll see if maybe it's just a question of Henri getting onto to a bit of a role. Anyone. Yeah, like you mentioned, Shearer played four in the bounce and scored one. So maybe he is just waiting for that guy to come on, score a couple of goals, let's say 2 or 3 goals in 3 or 4 games, and then kicking on from there. But yeah, I,
Perhaps it's just one of those things where everyone he has likes to play with a partner, maybe.
yeah. I mean,
I mean,
that's
Henri and Shearer as a partnership could be a good partnership, but obviously that doesn't fit into his tactical plan.
Yeah, and to be fair, apart from I think he changed things up about 4 or 5 games ago, and apart from that one at Dragons last week out, I think he's had sort of reasonable success with it. But yeah, and with Dede and brought on the wings, then there's creativity in the side. There's not a huge amount of defenders, which may be a problem against Thiago. But if he can keep it attacking, then maybe he can get something out of this game as well. Again, obviously it's Wayne Dade. And it's Hale and -1. Oh, let's hope it doesn't get cancelled or postponed in the middle. How does the public see this one?
Hooligans been put in as favourites. I think they were on a 46, 47%, but
Hmm.
Bolton weren't far behind in the 30s. This was this was the second closest one in terms of the vote, so
Hmm.
could be a good game.
We'll kick it off and see if and see what happens if Bolton can get back. Oh, okay, that's an early goal for Kennedy there. I was gonna say. Oh well, but Figo is Someone is getting a tune out of Figo. I think if there isn't any other reason for anyone to watch the Super League, just to see someone getting Figo to play well and score a lot of goals, that's something.
Yeah, and as I said at the start, he has failed at every club he's been at. So fair play to Ryan for getting this out of him.
Hmm.
Zambrotta's name's coming up quite a bit.
He is a very good player. I think we. Oh,
Oh, there's a red.
well, I think I changed. Did I change something last time and it went terribly wrong for Thiago? I can't remember. I think I'm just going to leave it. I mean, he does have two central defenders and two defensive midfielders, and he doesn't. He explicitly says that we will never see Mexes play for him, so I'm not going to make any changes. But Wayne Dade, you had been warned, and he's lived up to his reputation. So this should be a big opportunity for Bolton now to get all 3 points here.
Is the only positive there for Thiago that it's not an injury?
Yeah, I mean, unless he's got Gamara coming back, which I'm not sure if he has, then he will have to either change his tactic or play Philip Mexes in that role next time. He doesn't have a choice if
No.
Gamara's not back. I mean, you can play Deco. He doesn't even have defensive midfielders, I think, because Mendieta's out injured. Um, yeah. This is not.
I'm pretty sure he will play a midfielder there instead of Mexes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he could even pull Emerton or someone back in the middle, and then put maybe Beckham in for Emerton and Deco in midfield. Yeah, that I'm not sure what he would change there, but a terrible run of luck when with regards to suspension and injuries for hooligans. Bolton probably had slightly the better of it. In the first half. I mean the red card was only like with 4 minutes to go or something. So but so even before then they seem to have done pretty well.
Yeah, like I say, the couple of things we were mentioning, without seeing the individual stats, Zambrotta's name was coming up a lot. I saw a
Hmm.
few chances for Henri. Yeah, there's Henri with an 8. Zambrotta, where's he on the list? 7. So perhaps not doing as well as he should be doing with the amount of ball in his territory.
Hmm.
But I think at this point, when you see the likes of Veron, Zambrotta, Dede, Figo, Raul, Henri, Bolton will be looking at this now and saying, we should be winning this at this point
They
or
need
by the end of the game.
need to push on and get some points there, haven't they? I mean, like you say, the amount of play that's over on that right hand side with Dede hardly getting the ball and Sambrata getting certainly seeing a lot more of it, but not doing a lot with it. Just curious to see what happened with fine goal all round. What was it again? Emerson playing, and Figo, Henry to Figo, and a goal. I wanted to see this one. Oh, Raul was pushed by Yakubu. Okay, yeah. That's fine.
No, I'm not having that. The referee's gone soft there.
You think so? Raul looked to go past Yakubu. Raul was pushed by Yakubu. It is Wayne Dade. He is harsh, and we will see him. If this is true, then we will see him in action in the Ardsley against Churchtown massive game as well. I think that's when the one he's refereeing again. Ryan says no change. I think I know. I'm just double checking my notes. Oh yeah, it's only if he's losing I had to do something, and Henry's playing well, so we'll continue with that. No changes for Thiago either. What has he got to do in the second half? Hope that Bolton get a red card as well, or or just pray.
Um, it's a difficult one because with the talent he has there, I think he would still be thinking they could nick this.
True.
When you've got someone like Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, that even Elber, there's goals there. Beckham can supply. I know you're not a massive fan and he's not playing well, but he can supply.
Hmm.
Interesting crosses in the net. He's got an 8, so good
Yeah.
decision there for the first half at least. So I
Looks.
think he'll still think he can nick this, but Bolton will probably be favourites at this point.
Yeah, well, we'll kick off the second half and we'll see what happens. As you say, hooligans, they individually they have players that are strong enough to get a goal, but Bolton are definitely in pole position to take full advantage in the second half. And they're cheering. We got one disallowed there. Um, that's what happened to Dragons last week against Bolton. They had one disallowed for offside.
That was controversial as well. but we don't want VAR in the Super League, Martin. Don't do it.
And there's Thierry Henry with a late winner for Bolton Phoenix. So maybe maybe his striker will get a recall next week. Good result for Bolton there. I think eventually breaking down hooligans. Let's have a look at the disallowed goal if I can find it. Sometimes it doesn't change color. Header by Henry, scored for Bolton Phoenix. Henry had straight in an offside position. Shame for Zambrota, who otherwise would have gotten a good assist there. And let's see who got the assist for the. So it was from the other side. It was they delivered the ball in. So yeah, a good day's work for Thierry Henry, getting a 10, an assist and a goal, and a happy Bolton manager. You would presume after that result.
Yes, definitely, and you can see in the comments there. I think he's right. I think that is a huge win. We keep mentioning how tight the league is in them sort of playoff positions, both sides of the dotted line. So to take 3 points from hooligans is massive.
Big win away for, especially. I mean, you can say that you need to win a couple of away games as well to make it into the top six, and you're maybe looking at perhaps beating your rivals, and then the likes of the teams in the bottom section. You're thinking maybe I have a chance there, but to get 3 points away to hooligans, that's got to be a big confidence booster. 4 yellow cards. We'll see if that has any suspension impact for next round. I think we've had one or two players already collecting enough yellows for a suspension. I don't think you need many in this league. Hopefully for hooligans, Valter Samuel is not one of them. Strong performances all round, apart from maybe Elba. They just didn't have enough to completely hold off Bolton Phoenix, but probably had slightly the better of the second half, apart from the goal.
Yeah, I don't think Thiago, apart from the result, he won't be too unhappy. I think that game could have gone either way. Um, it could just be a case that hooligans tired. That's what
hmm
Henry's capable of, and yeah, like we say, Ryan will be delighted. Thiago won't be too upset, and he'll dust himself off, and they'll both be ready to go again next week.
Yeah, I mean, shame for. I think hooligans now have. We'll look at that after the round of fixtures, but I think hooligan must have the worst disciplinary record in the league. I think that's their third red card so far this season, perhaps fourth, but we'll double check that after, obviously. But yeah, an interesting game and a good win for Bolton Phoenix there. And we're off to the Valleys next, I think, with Dragon Destroyers against Parma-Thanaikos. Let's get this show on the road as well. Um,
Before
what
we
can
start on this one, I just want to throw out that obviously Palmer made reference before the game. He's got a few things going on, so just want to issue a little thing out to say hope you're well, mate. And if you need anything, let me know.
free write up in the blog? A couple of friendly words maybe about one at the rear. Anything like that we can do to help, we'll definitely chip in. But yeah, obviously, what Steven says that goes from the whole league. Obviously, anyone who feels as if they've got other priorities, then obviously it's just a question of getting in touch or whatever, and we'll take care of your squad in the meantime. If you need to take a week off, we have got the fantastic virtual assistant manager here, so whose only claim to fame is that he found a proper goalkeeper for Ardsley this season. Apart from that, I don't think I've done much. But if you need to take a week off, then I'm obviously more than happy to cover for you. I can't guarantee the results, but the offer is there. So just in case. Um, if we look at Dragons first, they'll be hoping to build on that performance that they had last week, where they were perhaps unlucky not to get all 3 points against Bolton. But they need goals from different players, don't they? I mean, Robbie Keane has 7 in 7, Mark Viduka has 0 in 9, and Montella has 1 in 10. Um, is there a side more desperate for? I mean, even you've got Swindon have got various players scoring occasionally. Dragons is really this is a it's a really a one man band, isn't it?
Yeah, he's so dependent on Robbie Keane. It's actually unreal. When you look at the striking options, I can see Cisse there on the bench as well. I'm not sure else he's got in the squad, but there's plenty of goal threat there. Even Giggs is capable of scoring. And why only Robbie Keane can find the net, I've got no idea.
It's a very strange one, isn't it? And like you mentioned, he does have decent options and decent players. So there's not the it's not as if Montella and Viduka haven't scored goals before. I think we've all seen them score goals. There's something that's just not clicking for them. And I mean, Giggs getting the assists, getting crosses in. Has he had any assists? I mean, he's only had two, and he's not played that well. But it's also strange, isn't it? I mean, you look at his acceleration, you look at his creativity, his crossing, his flair. He's got dribbling, set pieces. He's got everything, and he's only got two assists.
Yeah, I think the issue is purely with the front two.
Mm,
When you look, and it could be just individual player instructions. I don't know. I can't answer it.
hmm
And obviously, in my position, I can't criticise either. He is doing better than I am. But the one thing I would say is, when you're the only team this season that have lost to me, you know you've got problems.
Yeah, that's perhaps an indication that things aren't, going, fantastically well. But I struggle to see a formation, a scenario, anything where you would put Montella and Viduka up front, and after 12 games, they'd have one goal between them. I just can't see how that's even a thing. But we'll see if they have a little bit more luck against Panathinaikos. Maybe we'll see someone other than Roy Keane on the score sheet. Panathinaikos, they've had tough times in the past against the Dragons, or Football Monologue as they were known. Um, but they have their front three, which they proved so lethal early on in the season: Vasiliuk, Nikiforenko, and Ebisand. But they haven't really been up to their best in the last couple of games, but still a good side, Panathinaikos, and they're really comfortable with that one in the back now. That they've Is that a surprise to you that's actually become more or less their kind of go-to formation now?
No, not at all. Like I say, when you play, it's the same with Alf. It's the same with Tiago. When you play something enough, and you're used to how all the little intricacies work, you're going to stick with it. And I'm a big fan of, whether you want to call it hashtag one at the back, or I call it the Great Wall of Palmer.
Mhm.
It works for him, and he's got players that work well in that formation for him.
Mhm.
I'd say that the front three have all done a job. Jorgatos has done a job out on that wing. Is it Powe, Pui?
Mhm.
How, however you pronounce it. Apart from last week, where I don't think he was particularly good, he's been arguably Palmer's best player. So it
Mhm.
works for him, and I can only see it continuing. I don't think he's going to be chopping and changing it anytime soon, unless results really do turn for him, of course.
Mhm.
But we saw what happened earlier in the season. He changed it a couple of games in a row, including against me. I think he got away with it against me because they hammered us.
Mhm.
Um, but in the other games, I think they may have lost from memory early in the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
went back to and it's worked well for him.
Yeah, well, we'll see what he gets out of it this evening. We are we are still to see a return of the fullbacks with the kind of crossfield arrows, or I mean, they weren't like crossfield; they were just a little bit up towards Nikiforenko, I think. But we haven't seen them again. But they might make an appearance. It probably depends on how the season goes for him. But he's still sitting relatively comfortable in the top half of the table. But we'll kick it off against the Dragons and see if we can get some goals in this one for someone else other than Robbie Keane. I mean,
Yay!
we could we could get goals from Montella. We could
Oh,
also get an early injury. Let's see. We'll probably put Carragher out on that one. Not your born wing back Jamie Carragher, but probably slightly better suited than Galetti to that role. But then we'll see. Um, this I
there's a lot of red.
was gonna say it's looking promising for Dragon Destroyers. Oh, it's not
All
too bad to put Jamie Carragher on, was it?
Jamie needed was for me to commentate on his game, and he was well away.
Yeah. I mean, there's 60 minutes to play, and Parma still they've still got a strong side. If they can get a goal before half time, that could really set them up for a second half comeback. But it looks as if the Dragon Destroyers are holding on 2-0 at half time. Montella on the scorecard. We were hoping to see someone other than Robbie Keane, and we have seen someone else. Other than Robbie Keane getting a goal there, so 5 shots all on target, which is also a new record, I think, for the Dragons. Let's have a look at their stats, their halftime stats first. Giggs with a 9 and an assist. I mean, and Kalatse with an assist, and perhaps most importantly, Montella with a goal.
Everyone talks about this commentator's curse, but everyone that we're talking about this week's actually doing a good job.
Yes, it's the reverse. Did someone come on and reverse it? I'm not sure, but a very strong first half performance. A new boy John Curtis coming in central defense for I can't remember someone else that normally plays there for Dragons in central defense, but I think this is John Curtis's debut. Yeah, he's not featured so far this season, but he's done a good job. Um, so happy days for the Dragons and Giggs
Yeah,
especially.
Jamie will be delighted watching this at the moment. The only thing I would say is, and again, I'm only basing it on what I could see on the commentary, it looked like at 2-0, Palmer finally woke up and started to play their way back into it. So if they can maintain that second half and get an early goal, it could be interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It definitely looked as if they had more of the chances in the second half. Salihamidzic, I think, is he one that came in for Mel shot this week? I think, not doing too well on the right hand side, and the front three not getting a whole lot of action either. Paul Robinson, keeper, some questions have been raised whether that's who you want in there if you're going to stay in the top six. But Palmer seems to stick with him. He's done an okay job. I mean, he's only conceded 9 goals, had a 5 last time out, and he's on course for not doing particularly well here. What do you think he should have played Dida? Do you think he should be looking for new goalkeepers? Dida's not been hugely impressive either.
Personally, there's two sides to that question. I like Paul Robinson. I think he's a decent keeper, and I think he's right to be Palmer's number one. But again, as I've mentioned to you in the past, getting a 5 in the last game, I wouldn't be having him in again this game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's obviously room for him to redeem himself in the second half. Let's see if Palmer can get that old early goal they were threatening to get, or if there's going to be, or if will we see? I mean, Montella has scored once before. Will we see a goal from Viduka? That's probably what everyone's waiting for. So let's have a look at the second half and see if things are going to change. What would be the? Oh, that's Nicky for that's not promising. We've got
That's ideal.
So we've got a like for like replacement with Gerard, the Barcelona one, the one with 2 R's as opposed to the Liverpool one. Um, that's not going to be great for his chances in the second half. I'm just going to throw it out there.
No, but there's Vasilja
There's
decided to
another
sit out.
offside goal. There's another offside goal. Oh, I think that's Montella
Oh,
again. And coming up to the end, and that's 3-0. What a result for Jamie.
Jamie will be delighted. Absolutely delighted.
I mean, dominant is probably the word that we're looking for here. 12 shots, 11 on target. That's a conversion rate that we don't often see in the Super League. If we do, it's because it's like 5 and 5 and or 6 and 5 and something like that. To have that many shots and have 11 of them on target, that's a great return for him there. And look at Ryan
Um,
Giggs.
that's the sort of performance that they've been threatening to do without ever reaching the heights. I mean, you look at that Giggs 10, Montella 10. You've got Viduka there with an 8 despite not scoring. There's a couple of 9s there in the
Hmm.
defensive area as well. Pretty much perfect performance.
I mean, he'd be hugely impressed with John Curtis coming in and getting a 9. I did not expect that. I mean, I can't for the life of me remember who it is he replaced. If anyone in the comments can remember, then please give me a shout. But yeah, it's very impressive, and I think especially for gigs. I mean, I'd, I'd only had bad things to say about him, to be fair, in the pre-match. But this is really the kind of performance that you want from Ryan Giggs.
Yeah, without doubt. And this is what I was saying beforehand. Yes, it's not been going well for him, but that's because the people in front of him haven't been doing their job. He's probably been laying on a plate all season. You
Hmm.
know, we can't really think of many games where we've looked and Dragons haven't created anything. They've just not been scoring.
Yeah,
And
it's
now
been
they've
you're right. It's been Montella and Viduka like getting 1 out of 5 on target or something like that. You're right, actually.
looking at that. Um, Cannavaro hasn't done very well, which you'd expect conceding three. You mentioned Paul Robinson at half time, but he's got an 8 showing his worth. You know, he's had a lot of shots against him there, and only 3 have gone past him.
Yeah, 11 shots on target and he saved 8. I mean, don't think there's any other keeper in the league this week that's going to save 8 shots on target. To be fair, so reasonably well done for Paul Robinson there. Um, I mean, probably just a bad day in the office for Palmer United. I don't expect we'll see many changes from them. Jamie is a bit of a bogey opponent for him, and has proven so again. So no surprises there. But I think they've got a couple of home games now coming up, Palmer United, and obviously the winter, a bit of a winter break as well. So I expect we'll see them back in full flow shortly. But they've got to be disappointed anyway. I mean, regardless of of the circumstances. That is a disappointing result, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's disappointing all round for everyone except Jamie, really. I mean, speaking personally for a moment, you know, I've now seen Sloths win and Dragons win. And if there was ever a time where I wanted Timmy and Palmer to do me a favour and actually get a result, it was tonight. And
Yeah.
bang. So
And
I'm really
and and
cutting.
obviously we've got yourself and BTEC coming up next. So a less than ideal result against BTEC, that will mean that all of the three teams in apart from you in the bottom half will have taken 3 points. So it's perhaps more important than even it was before the start of the evening that you get 3 points from this one. Without dwelling too much on the consequences, let's move on and see how the teams line up for this one. The bottom of the table clash here. So BTEC go with a who else plays like this? Um,
Uh, not
Ardsley
Bolton.
maybe.
Ardsley normally do. And was it Valen that went with it tonight?
Yeah, Balin went with something very similar to this, if not the exact same. Um, strong defensive display, if you want to call it that, against Valen on Saturday. I think Valen had 12 shots on target, 12 shots, 4 on target. So perhaps not the strongest, but they kept them at bay. Um, but yeah, I mean, 5 points behind the teams in the contention spot. So I think the 17 is like the kind of number where there's a bunch of teams that have 17 and BTEC have 12. So if they are to be kind of part of that group, they need to beat you today, I guess. Um, and I'm not going to ask you if you see that happening. I'm going to say that I still struggle to see BTEC turning in a lot of good results. I'm not sure if it's my personal opinion. They are the wrong way around, Saeed and Contra, aren't they? Yeah, I can see that. You see, there's gonna be something. I think it's Ian's fault, to be honest, because he puts them in such a bizarre order. He puts the numbers in such a bizarre order, or maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe it was last week he did. Either way, well spotted, Ian. I was just looking at that at this. I think his line here is a little bit on the weak side, but that's just because maybe I don't know the players or I don't rate them. Would you pick? Would you have any of those? Would you pick any of those for your side? Lee Young Pyo, Saeed, and Contra, if you had the chance.
Well, see, I disagree with you entirely.
Hmm.
I'm looking at that team and I'm struggling to see a weak point.
Right.
I'm struggling to see why they're languishing so low in the league when they've got that team. I mean, if you look at Abiati's quality keeper, Kivu and Stam, quality centre halves, Ibrahim Saeed, obviously champ legend, Contra. Lee Young Pyo isn't one I was ever a massive fan of. I think it's Timmy, possibly, who's a big fan of his from memory.
Hmm.
But then Dyer, Nielsen, quality midfield, Agahawa, obviously can be hit and miss at times, but can't argue that he's got quality. And then that front two, it can be frightening if on form.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he would be expecting more from both of them, and he's obviously got Pizarro out injured or on the out injured so far this season. I think he's only had 4 starts and 3 goals, so he could be even better when he get that guy back from injury as well. And I can see there's a a couple of mentions of the screen being tiny bit blurry. It looks for me as well in the stream. It actually looks in the streaming window. It looks blurry. So I'm not sure what Ryan's seeing, but we'll see. Um, moving on to Swindon Devils. A little bit of a change. So you've gone with the formation that you finished the last game with.
Yeah, so we had a bad first half, but when I looked at the player ratings and the match stats and the player stats, there was only really Carlos and Emre who played particularly badly, and Emre got sent off as well.
Hmm.
Um, so what I wanted to try and do is, I mentioned it earlier. I can't remember who I said it for, but was that consistency? And this will be the third game, I think, or fourth game only that I've played this formation for. Um, I've obviously tweaked it like you say, and instead of having two behind one, I've gone one behind two at the top end.
Hmm.
And Hart's in for his first game of the season, and Mendes got sent off. Sorry, it was Mendes that got sent off last week because Amoruso's replaced him this week.
Hmm.
Um, see, like I say, statistically, we weren't outplayed. It's just Sloths were very efficient with their scoring. So I wanted to see if putting two up top might just change it slightly.
True. I mean, hopefully for you, Kluivert will maybe get some goals up there. Huntelaar got what, 2 in the last 2, so that's pretty good. So as long as you can keep them from scoring, you should be in with a decent shout in this one, I think. How do the bookies rate this, or the people who voted for a potential win, draw, etc.?
Um, there was no vote for a nil-nil, and B Tech had 72, possibly 73% of the vote for a win.
Hmm. Right.
So yeah, we're massive underdogs, understandably. But we always are. We always will be. And hopefully, everyone else around us has won. It's time we did, just to draw B Tech into that, make it a group of four, if you will, almost, as
Yeah,
opposed to
it could be your own private little when when you do these preseason friendlies, you can actually do like a little tournament. It could be like one of those, like a little kind of like, let's see who's the best of the rest situation if you pick up the win tonight. But let's kick off and see if BTEC's strikers can and players in general can live up to your high thoughts of them, or if indeed the Devils will pick up a precious 3 points away from home here. First 20 minutes went by in a flash. And there's
yes.
Ian Hart scoring on his debut. Who would have thought it? Well, you, otherwise you wouldn't have put him in, I guess.
Come on.
Let's see if we can
Oh,
hold on till half time. Oh, still Roberto. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're going to need clinical finishing to get out of the situation that you're in, and you don't get more clinical than 2 from 2.
this is a very Devils performance of old, as I mentioned at the very beginning. We were always efficient with our goal scoring. We just weren't very good at keeping clean sheets. So this is like a throwback to previous years. But I'm not I'm not looking forward to this second half. This could be horrible.
let's not. I can't remember what you say in English. In Danish, you say let's not sell the skin until we shoot the bear. So what's the other? What's the one? It's something about chickens and hatching. Either way, good side, good performance. Good performance from your side so far. What do you think?
Don't count the chickens before they've hatched.
True. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Much more peaceful country you've got here. Isolated, no bears. That's the thing.
Can
Any
you
anyone?
can you send the bear analogy to using day-to-day life, please? Because I'll forget that, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely. I've got there's a few ones that people might find amusing, but I'll definitely send you a list of some of the more let's say creative ones. So Sir Roberto getting a goal, Ian Hart getting a goal. Where did Ian Hart get that goal from? Direct free kick, surely. Oh no, it was. Hart collected the ball, drove the ball a goal, and scored. It's like Stephen Carr in the old days, or at least what he tried to do. Like 99% of the time he got the ball, just tried to have a go. Although Ian Hart was quite a good free kick taker, if I'm not mistaken.
He was
Um,
superb. Taken.
and say Roberto attempted to hit it low, found the net. First ever goal from. Yeah, I mean, it's going well for you. It's going not good for BTEC. I I I, I don't know what he's done with Jaap Stam.
I'm well. I was looking at my ratings there, obviously with interest to see that my centre halves have got sixes. I'm hoping that that's because his forwards aren't really doing much. Otherwise, we could be in trouble second half. Yes, you look at that. Stam getting a 5 isn't ideal. I mentioned Agahauer, he's only getting a 6. I think there's a lot of improvement there to be had for BTEC, and
Hmm.
I just don't really want to say much and jinx it if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I can completely understand that. I think looking at the squad that BTEC has, and then the players that they have, I think that he needs to go narrow. And that's not just because it's the only thing he hasn't tried yet. I think he has good players for it. But either way, we'll kick off the second half. He's not going narrow today. We'll kick off the second half, and we'll see how Swindon Devils get on in the second half. So hold on to your hat and things.
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
creating chances. You're still creating chances.
way.
B-Tech picking it up a little bit towards the end here.
It's all BTEC.
There's
Oh no.
Inzaghi with one of them.
Oh no. Oh, for God's sake.
5 minutes
We're going to lose.
left.
Fuck's sake. Yes!
And it's not over yet.
Go on. Oh,
Oh my goodness, what a finish. I think we had like 5 minutes of not 5 minutes, but we had a few seconds of of the dreaded radio silence there. I was just staring at the screen. Presumably you were the same.
I mean, that's it. I'm. I don't even know. I mean, we've conceded 3 goals in 5 minutes. That's pathetic. And we've got away with it because Contra scored an own goal.
I mean,
I just don't know what to say. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Sorry,
that's
I should.
the turnaround from BTEC there without dwelling on it. I mean that's an incredible 6 minutes they've had there. I mean both of you, to be fair, are going to be bitterly disappointed with that result. To be honest, I mean you've had a strong 2-0 lead up until 10 minutes before time. Looked as if it's all been thrown away and gotten back to a draw, and BTEC look as if they've had like a fantastic comeback and then lost it at the end there. Um, I appreciate that you might not be overly interested in this, but it would be interesting to see just how they managed to get those goals in so quickly. Dyer passed the ball up, Agahauer picked it up and ran into Oliveira for some reason. And Philip Osaki just gathered up the loose ball and scored. Loose ball there. Agahauer with a rebound and a chance to score. And the last one was Contra with a good run forward and then just a cross in. So fairly normal goals, nothing strange there. Amarusa with a big shot there towards the end, blasted towards the top corner, and Contra deflected into the old net, into his own net. So a huge amount of action in the last 10 minutes of the game. Not your best second half performance, I think.
No, it's almost as if they could feel my sense of dread when I was talking about it at halftime because they just completely went into their shells.
Mm,
I
yeah.
mean, why can't they just carry on playing like they did in the first half? Because we looked fairly, I wouldn't say comfortable, because obviously the stats prove we weren't comfortable, but we didn't look like we were going to throw it away and then just completely forgot how to play football for 10 minutes. And in the end, we're lucky to get a draw. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, it was to be fair. I mean, the first 70 minutes it looked as if it was, you were fully in control, and then they started having chances in those from like late 60 to sort of up to 80 minutes, and then they eventually started to 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 punch a hole through. I mean, Filippo Inzaghi, what can we say about him? Two goals. Agahawa got one as well. Let's have a quick look at the BTEC stats. They certainly played themselves up in the second half, and in Saki getting the man of the match here. Um, Looking at your players, I mean, it's only really the central defenders that looks as if they've lost their concentration towards the end. Everyone's still getting a seven. Perhaps have hope for more, and the result, of course, is not what you've been hoping for. Any positives is all to take from this? I mean, I know right now it doesn't look like it, or it doesn't seem like there might be many. But on reflection, do you think that there's anything that you will take away from this as a positive? Three goals. I mean,
no,
that's not bad.
no, not at all. And this goes back to what I was saying about was it Asta possibly?
Hmm.
Like I'm sat here now, or yeah, I'm sat here now, and I'm just so frustrated that I've drawn a game because we needed to win. As I said at the start, Sloths won,
Hmm.
Dragons won. Where people say, well, the good thing is, Fife, you didn't lose.
Hmm.
You scored 3 goals. Apart from the two centre backs, you got fairly good ratings. No, that's irrelevant. We've lost another 2 points on everyone that's around us in inverting commas, and we're two
Hmm.
points fifth. And to be 2-0 up as well, it's just so annoying and frustrating. So no, there's not much you can take from it. Yes, we scored 3 goals, but we conceded 3 goals. It's pathetic.
In a short period of time, short space of time. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously probably home games coming up, etc. I'm not gonna bring out all the cliches about more games coming up, etc. So I will wish you luck back at the drawing board, and hopefully you'll have Mendes back for the next game. It looks as if Amoruso and West perhaps didn't have the best of the evening. Someone said you lost all your headers. Alf said you lost your headers, which you did, to be fair. But I don't think that Tariva West or Lorenzo Amoruso are necessarily poor headers of the ball. But that is to some extent true. I mean, Inzaghi good in the air, Palermo probably quite good in the air as well. That's just one of those things. So that's it. Who says no assist? Ryan says no assist. There's an assist for Contra just there. You don't have any assist because they were, I don't know, forward surging runs or something like that. Anyway, let's not dwell too much on it. We still have one more game to go this evening. It's RC Celtic at home to Churchtown. So why does Churchtown come up first? Well, either way, um, we'll kick this one off shortly. Same formation as BTEC with slightly shorter arrows on the fullbacks. Ardsley, we mentioned briefly Morientes and Tristan. Um, have you been impressed with the way they've turned things around, or is it what we should really expect from Ardsley given the quality of the squad?
Well, I mean, the two you mentioned have got 14 between them, as we said before. Um, I think he's not long had these two playing together, so it's scary to think what they could have achieved if they'd both been fit for the entirety of the season so far.
Hmm.
Um, Look at Raquelme and Malevsky. They've got quality all over the pitch, and you can only see them continuing to rise.
Yeah, Parfenov in midfield is perhaps a surprise to me, considering that we've still got Joe Cole on the bench. Stankovic did okay when he came in as well, but Arsenal mixing it up a little bit here, and obviously relying heavily on his free scoring strikers. I think Morientes has 7 in 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Yeah,
7 in 4. Um, which he's got to be happy with. If we look at the Churchtown side, um, Churchtown impressed at home to Panathinaikos, getting that Barry Ferguson winner in that game. Kieran's going narrow tonight, perhaps a surprise considering that Astor lost with a narrow formation away at Ardsley last week. But maybe Kieran's got something up his sleeve. He's certainly got an overloaded AMC area with Edmundo, Robin, and Mackay. Um, Yeah, I'm not sure. Three AMCs, is that something that you would recommend or that you have experimented with? I'm not sure if we've seen it a lot this season.
Did Bolton not do it earlier in the season? Play 3 AMCs.
Did they play 4 DMCs and 3 AMCs in one game? I think you're right, actually. I think you're right.
It'd be interesting to see how this pans out. I mean, the only one I'm looking at is Edmundo. I'm wondering whether maybe swapping him and Robben around would possibly be the only thing I would look at. But I mean, again, looking at his team, Maldini is a winner. We know that. Barry Ferguson is a player who I like a lot. Roy Mackay, again, he played for Swindon Devils for a couple of seasons on
Hmm.
the previous version. Um, I noted for the blog last week that Larson and Van Nistelrooy, and I think Mackay as well, possibly had all been dropped. Interesting, especially as they won, that Van Nistelrooy in particular has come back in, and it's I think that's is that Olusedebi?
Yeah,
Uh,
the Polish Nigerian fella, Oli Sadebe maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think he came in, played half decent, got a seven and out again. Kieran has been chopping and changes his front line really quite a lot this season actually. So I'm not entirely sure what the logic is, but he likes Van Nistelrooy. He likes Dutch people. He has Robin. He has Mackay. Maybe that's the thing. He likes Dutch attackers. Who knows?
Kieran just likes the Dutch.
Hmm. Maybe that is the case. Let's try and kick this one off. Last game of the evening, as we mentioned, it's Wayne Dade in charge again. So, so there could be red cards in this one. Let's see what Arsenal and Churchtown will bring us. I doubt it'll be as exciting as the last one, but it could still be a good game. It's two very talented teams with a lot of potential, definitely. And of
It
course that
surprised me.
Spanish lineup.
Sorry, I was just going to say it surprised me that Ardsley were overwhelming favourites for this. It did surprise me that
Mm.
they were favourites, particularly being at home. But you know, we were talking 70 odd percent again, and it surprised me because Churchtown are no mugs.
And they're 1-0 up, so yeah, definitely. Roy Mackay, who had such a brilliant start to the season, I think, but then went out in the cold for a while. He's back with a bang. Ooh, that's curtains. That's got to be curtains for Ardsley, I think. What are we going to do here of interesting things? I think he's going to have to go with one striker, to be honest. Boop, 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 boop. Because with the way that Kieran is playing, it's going to be suicide to. Oh, that's wrong. It's going to be suicide to try and do something else, I think. So I'm going to take Tristan because he's only been playing at a six, and we'll see. Oh, that has not gone well. There we go. I'll keep Morientes there so Riquelme has some space to run into. This is not going to end well for Ardsley, I feel. Barry Ferguson, yeah, putting that penalty away with ease. Uh, Difficult when Wayne Dade's in charge, isn't it? It's a little bit like Wayne Old. Is it a Wayne thing? Is it not Wayne Oldham, the other one? Let's have a look at this one here. Kenny Sowers clipped the feet of Belletti in the area. He looked over to his assistant and awarded the penalty, so it wasn't even just for his own kind of like, you know, putting himself in the center of things.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said it wasn't even just Wayne Dade putting himself in the center of things. He actually checked with his assistant, so it seemed to be a fair red card there for Kenny Saris, unfortunately for Hodgie. Um, Impressive from Churchtown. The front three are working well. What do you think?
Very impressive for like you say,
Holy
you're
shit, they
dragging.
do have 6 yellow cards though.
Yeah, Dade's not messing about. I think what it is he's struggling with the fatigue, so he can't run up and down the pitch, and every time someone's going over, he's just booking them.
Well, it does look as if there's something like that going on. Good performance from Roy Mackay so far. Anyone else that stand out for you? Barry Ferguson with a six, maybe perhaps a little bit is surprising and disappointing.
Yeah, I'm quite interested. Like you say, Ferguson got a six, and Maldini's only got a six, considering they haven't conceded.
True, actually, and really like limiting as Ardsley Celtics sort of attacking options and the chances. I mean, 4-1. you could say they're down to 10, but that was only for the last what 3 minutes. So they really didn't have a lot to offer in that respect. Let's see what the I mean, and they have Vieira and John Terry on yellow cards. We could have less than 21 players at the end of this if we're not if we're not careful. Not much we can do, but that could be a tricky one. Riquelme with a 5. Everyone else with a disappointing performance in general. I don't think Ardsley changed anything, so it looks as if Churchtown are onto something with the formation here. Um,
Winning the midfield battle.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Patrick Vieira doing okay. He's got 10 tackles already, but only won 5 of them, and getting a 7. Um, no way back for Ardsley.
I'll never say never, but it'll be very difficult.
That's been very kind, I think, but I can be proven wrong, of course. I'm thinking another red card and another goal for Churchtown. Although if Churchtown get an early red, which is likely considering the mess they're in, then maybe who knows? I mean, it could free up some space for Tristan, but we'll see. We'll see if
It's
they
not the
can.
first. It's not the first time tonight a team's been 2-0 up away from home and not won. If it
That is
happens,
that is true. Jeremy's got a yellow. I think they're on 7 yellows now. It's got to be a record for some kind of record for the season.
it's quite an even game in the second half so
Yeah, it
far.
seems as if Arsenal are having more luck in the second half than they had in the first, for sure. Maybe it's Churchtown are tiring a little bit. Is that another yellow without a red? What's going on here? Uh, looks like it'll be
It's going
kind
to
of a
peter out.
Oh,
Oh,
Robin with a quick one there just before the end. Impressive win for Churchtown, perhaps helped on quite a bit by Canizares sent off, limiting what Arsenal could do in the second half, chances wise. But they still managed to play better, to be honest. They had 7 and 4 in the second half, which are much better than the first half, to be honest. But Churchtown, understandably, probably took the foot off the gas a little bit, having incensed the referee in the first half. But that's a fine collection of yellow cards. I think Jens Jeremies was probably the only one to get one in the second half, but still, that's a fair return on on investment when it comes to cards. Front three working well.
yes, definitely. And the return to form of Churchtown coincides with Oliver Kahn picking up a 9 there. Um, there was a small spell where questions were being asked of him, but he seems to be back to his best, and Churchtown are picking up results again.
Definitely are, and a couple of good assists there from Belletti, Van Nistelrooy, Estebaria completely out in the cold. I think preempting his move or his sale. Soroczynski doing quite well, Belletti doing well, Jeremies. Yeah, I mean strong performance all round. Ardsley, I mean they'll be disappointed with the result, obviously, but when you lose your keeper, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean he didn't have that much to do before being sent off, but being there down to 10 men against Churchtown is not really an easy place to be,
No,
especially with.
absolutely.
Hmm?
I was just agreeing with you there. It was never going to be easy, particularly with 10 men. Um, you'd be disappointed that Raquel hasn't sort of stood up to be counted and made more of an effort to have an influence on the game.
Hmm.
All in all, considering he did play a whole half of football with a man like and Rusto did get a 7. There's a lot of 7s there, so there are reasons to, not be completely dissatisfied. But that is a statement of intent from Churchtown that they are on the march again, back up into
Yeah,
the top.
they had a couple of games there missing Ferguson and, like you say, Khan performing badly in a couple of games as well, which I think was around the same time as the Ferguson injury. So yeah, definitely we see them in the right direction. So we had a bit of a mixed bag this evening. We had some nil-nils, perhaps a little bit surprisingly. Two big home favorites, I think Valen and Midlothian. I think I would probably have thought both of them could have gotten a win. I would have certainly seen goals in both those games, but they were goalless draws. Sloths really getting results, a good result there against the Cannons. Hooligans losing at home again. I think that was a red card involved in that one as well. Dragons with a very solid result. Yourself in yeah, let's not dwell on the match itself, but for the neutral game of the evening, definitely. I mean, I think the comments were quite clear on that one, and then Churchtown getting a good win in the end. So let's have a look at see what that does to the table. Um, Yeah, Valen, they're not pulling away because they only got a point. So although Hooligans lost, then that's where they are now. And look at Bolton up to third.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now, feeling very envious of all the teams that I can see on the screen at the moment. Um, and it is very, very. Oh, sorry. Excuse me 1 second.
Hmm. So a meteoric rise. I'll continue with if Ryan is still on. I'll continue talking about the meteoric rise of Bolton Phoenix there. So hit didn't quite hit rock bottom, but down to 12th. And yeah, it shows how tight it is here. I mean, the only team in that, or the team that did the best in that mid section, jumping from eighth to third, because everyone was on 17 points before, and himself and Churchtown got the wins there. So yeah, 20 points all round for folk. We've got Midlothian still in the top six, but a draw was perhaps not what Ian had been hoping for there because he's got away games coming up. Ardsley Celtic just dropping out of the top six. Could be back, obviously, with a good result. I mean, it's still ridiculously tight. Chudley Cannons are in 10th, but they are 4 points away from second place. So, I mean, if there's really all to play for, and it's definitely been made a little bit easier for both Dragon Destroyers and for BTEC, and even for Sloths. I mean, 11. I know 6 points behind 10th, but if 10th is only 4 points behind second, then that's really that's really full. It's full of opportunities here. I mean, 10 points from second to 13th. That must be as
What,
close as we've seen it.
so what you're saying there is the only team that you can't see making the top six is me.
You only have 5 points. I'm not. I'm not trying to be awkward here, but you only have 5 points from 12 games, and I'm just. I will say if you win the next two, then we can talk about it. If you win the next two and you get up to 11 points and there's not much movement here and people are still sitting around in sort of the low 20s and you're only 10 points behind, then I will definitely say you can still make it. As long as you're 14, 15 points behind, then it's not impossible, but then it's going to be tricky. But you know that yourself. There's no I don't need to point out that if you lose a two-goal, lead, then and end up drawing it, then that's not the way to go about it. But eh, I would say you need a couple of wins, but you know that, so that's not really
Yeah,
very helpful advice. But yeah, I would say otherwise. It's looking very difficult, very very difficult.
at the end of the day, I mean, there's talk obvious. Everyone knows how tight it is at the top, and everyone can see how cut adrift I am at the bottom. But I am still looking at it as the four of us, if you will. I've got someone to chase. I'm 6 points off the next one. That's my first target. Once we can catch them, is catch the next one, then catch the next one, and that's what we've got to look to do.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely. I mean, for sure, there's still lots to play for at the bottom, and just as Dragons only have 8 points to second place, they also only have 8 points to the bottom. So it's not as if they are home and dry yet at all. There's obviously plenty of football still to be played, and it could go in either direction for the teams involved here. Um, as well as for yourself, it could easily pick up, and for teams at the top, it could easily go down. I mean, Astor down to ninth now. I mean, that's a further drop. I mean, you can easily this curve can obviously be reversed. Teams can have the same results in the other direction as we've seen with Bolton. The further on we get in the season, the slightly trickier it becomes, I guess. But definitely chances to turn things around. Um, Quick look at the team stats. Bolton, top of the form table. Astor and yourselves not. Um, so Ryan, it must really be, I mean, chuffed, especially considering that with the drop points they had at the Dragons to be doing so well. Is that a surprise to you, considering that they perhaps didn't have the best start to the season, that Bolton are doing as well as they are, and Ryan
no,
is new
no,
to
no,
Ryan being new to the league as well. I know he
no,
followed
not.
it from afar, but still.
I think when you consider, like you say, he did follow it beforehand, so he knew what was involved. When you look at some of the players that they've got at Bolton, I don't think it can be a surprise. I think looking at that form table, You see Sloths up there proving what I was saying beforehand, that they're going to continue to climb, even Dragons.
Hmm.
Um, you see Asta and BTEC down there with me. So that's the sort of thing that can give us confidence that people can be caught. And it'll give teams like Sloths and Church Tower and Dragons, to a degree, belief that they can still make the top six. We still got half the season to go, and that's what people need to remember.
Yeah, true. And you see Hornets and Panathinaikos 10th and 11th in the form table, and Panathinaikos has obviously dropped because they're 1 point behind. Hornets are still fourth, and I mean, but haven't had a particularly good form of late. I was interested to see. I mean, Lee Boy are still top of the average ratings table. I was more interesting to see with where we are with the red cards. Yeah, so we've had a few 19 red cards now this season. Swindon with a couple. I mean, it's not really sorted by anything, so I don't know who's had the most. Can you see it on team stats? Red cards. There we go. Yeah, hooligans and oh well, Ardsley of course. Ardsley got another one as well. They're top of the table of the poor discipline. Let's see the yellow cards. Ardsley with 20 yellows and 3 reds taking pole position. Hooligans have only got 9 yellow and 3 red. That's an interesting ratio. So yeah, thugs up there in that part of the world, maybe. Yeah.
It's the Yorkshire thing.
It's David Batty all over. I'm not sure what happened with the top scorers this week. There wasn't any strikers that really stood out for me today, as far as I remember. Rossini got a goal, but that was about it of the big names. Did any of these? Figo up to seventh. Figo, of course, scoring as well. And that was it from these guys. If we have a quick look before we finish up on the fixtures for next week, you are at home to Valen United, who only managed a goalless draw today. So it'll be interesting to see what they'll bring to the Devil's Lair and how you will deal with it. Any changes planned? I think you should have Mendes back.
Yeah, we've definitely got to continue looking at it defensively to try and sort it out. But at least it's a nice, easy game against someone who's bang out of form, not romping the league or anything.
Mm.
Um, I'm just looking at the other fixtures to see what stands out. Bolton Midlothian could be a cracker. Interesting to see how Sloths do against Hornets, see if the revival really is on. Dragons will be looking at Asta, thinking they can pick up points there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not looking great for me again, if I'm honest.
I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough away fixture. I mean, if it's any consolation, I mean they didn't score this time out, so maybe there's hope. Maybe they do have a bit of a lull in their goal scoring form. I mean, they are top of the table, but they're certainly not one of the teams that really like dominate with lots of goals, etc. They've just been grinding out some good results. Apart from that, we have Parma Icos. Parma getting a home game here against Ardsley. That's going to be an exciting game, I think, perhaps with red cards in it. As mentioned, with regards to the referees, it doesn't really matter if I use, so I won't put maybe not put the next game screen in, because it doesn't really, I mean, you can see who's injured for the opposition, obviously, if there's anything to look at there. But the refereeing thing doesn't work because it reassigns the referees every time you reload the game. So there's not much point in me saying that Wayne Oldham was going to be in charge of a couple of games, because I save it and go back into it and they've changed the referees. So please don't pay too much attention to that. Apart from
If
that,
you
I
can,
don't really. Hmm?
sorry, if you can just click the referee stats to see how Mr. Dade's double performance tonight has put him up the leaderboard.
I mean, when he, he does like to throw the cards around, Wayne Dade. I mean, I know we said that we should watch out for Wayne Oldham. Yeah, so it's Wayne and Wayne. Those are the twos that you probably would prefer not to have refereeing your games. I mean, Wayne Dade with 4 games, 23 yellows and 2 reds, and Wayne Oldham with 3 games, 3 reds and 11 yellows. You would want to avoid them if possible.
The
I
other,
can't.
the other one to look out for is Mr. Bainey, who I mentioned in the blog, decided to take centre field in the Dragons game last week. He was one of the
Hmm.
disallowed Keens goals. and I noticed he's fairly high up in the yellow card stats as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 13 and 5. It's still he's still the only one. There's still only Wayne Dade that registers as harsh. The other ones are merely strict. So who you really want is someone like Perry Muir, for example, who has played 2 games and is still to hand out a card. Yeah, but as I said, it's not something that unfortunately we can plan or predict when it comes to the league games. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's the luck of the draw, as they say. Um, Anything else? Anything we want to have a look at? Let's see if there's any change in this. I mean, I mentioned it before. If it was anything that people was interested in, I can put these stats in, but it's perhaps not the most fantastic thing. Churchtown with 3 goals from corners. Nice to know. And still games without winning. Astor are now 7th. We've looked at the form already. I think the what um, is really impressive is that Valen and Bolton are now that's a lot of games without actually losing, and we can say it's all about winning all your home games and getting points away from home, etc. If you can go 9 or 7 games unbeaten, then you're doing relatively well for yourself, I think. So I think that's pretty much it from me. Do you have any last words? Anything you want to add, Stephen, for this evening?
Just looking at those last stats you showed, I would keep an eye out on Churchtown. I think they're going to be on the rise again. I think they're the team to watch at the moment. But apart from that, thanks for having me on. Thanks for listening, guys, and speak to you very soon.
Pleasure as always, Stephen. Thank you very much for contributing. It's great to have it's great to have any of you guys on, but it's great to have someone on who's been with the league such a long time and has great knowledge of what's gone on in the past as well. Only last thing to say is that I will try and do a show on Wednesday night, a kind of review transferee kind of special thing. This is all a little bit TBC, but there will definitely be information in the pack about the bids that are going to be placed for the players, etc. So you'll get more information on it in writing rather than me rambling, because I appreciate that can be difficult to refer back to. So that should be out on Wednesday, either as pre-recorded or as a live show, yet to be confirmed. Apart from that, I've not really got much else to add. We managed to squeeze in a couple of hours on a on a Sunday evening. Why not? Thanks very much, Stephen, and thanks to everyone out there. Have a good night, and I will speak to you soon. Good night.
Cheers, bye.